All right, hello everyone. This is episode 20 of the Late Game. My name is Lycan, and I'm here with my co-host Destiny, and we are here with three awesome guests. First, we're going to start off with Richard Lewis. Richard, it's been a while. How you doing?
Yeah, it has been a while. I'm not doing too bad. Obviously, just still recovering from Gfinity. Blew my voice out a little bit, so I'm a little bit throaty today. But should be able to get through a 2-hour show with my old chums.
Good, good. How was Gfinity overall?
A great event. There were some challenges on the first day, but overall, I think the CS community really warmed up to them, and they're a great team. Obviously, Paul is poised to join them. He starts in an official capacity, I think, in May. And Robert Oland's there now, so we had lots of catching up to do. And I'm looking forward to working again with them in the future. I think they're going to do big things, especially for UK esports.
Awesome, awesome. You also just did like a tech show before you came on here?
Yeah, it was tech news today on Mike Algan or something. They wanted to talk about the whole YouTube gunning for Twitch,
right?
Their live streaming platform, like basically relaunching YouTube Live into something with a gaming and perhaps more surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, an esports focus. So that was a big story that I got to break this week, and yeah, that's blew up. So yeah, I'm getting treated like a real journalist.
No. Yeah, we're definitely.
Do you think they'll actually stick with it? Do you think that this time they'll make like a big push instead of just kind of giving up on it like they did last time?
The investment they've made, in bringing in Fwiz, I mean, to take him from MLG TV, where I'm sure he was on a pretty penny because obviously he went there from Machinima, to have him head up and become your head of gaming, a huge presence like that who understands esports broadcasting, and then to hire 50 engineers with live streaming expertise, they're coming for Twitch, believe it.
Do you think they're incensed by the loss of Twitch to Amazon?
I don't know if they can say that they're incensed. I mean, what you've got to remember is that ultimately the deal didn't go ahead because Google had some very serious antitrust concerns. And again, for those that maybe don't know what that is, ultimately they feel they get special attention from the monopoly legislature in all around the world, actually. And of course, because they own some of the streaming platforms, they were worried that they might get fined up the ass if they acquired Twitch on top of that. And that kind of made the deal stall. And, there was other parties waiting in the wings, Amazon with the lucky beneficiaries. So, yeah, I guess it did sting a little bit. Google have been unlucky in the past. They narrowly missed out on Facebook in the past. People forget about that. And, of course, not everything they try to hand to is a success. Just look at Google+. So, yeah, hopefully they will, add some live streaming space.
I think it's actually quite the opposite. For like most of the projects that Google tries out end up being failures. I think it was like 1 in every 10, maybe less, ends up turning into something like really good. But yeah, Google launches a ton of projects. Most of them fizzle out, but they just make the investment because they'll get that that occasional product that'll turn into something really good. I know they made it run at the streaming thing before. It'll be really interesting to see if they legitimately like gun for it this time and they don't give up. I think it would be really healthy.
Yeah, all my sources, and look, it's one of those poorly kept secrets, actually. A lot of people in the streaming industry are more than aware of this and have been for a while. It was just kind of getting people to talk and give me the information I needed. But look, at the end of the day, I think they're really gonna make a good run at it. And based on the current landscape in esports, where everyone's doing these land grabs, everyone's trying to get content and trying to get talent, I think YouTube are going to do very well for themselves, and they're going to create a whole bunch of opportunities for people like yourself, actually, Stephen, for streamers who maybe have been vocal about how they don't feel they always get.
We're not getting into this.
Yeah,
I just got unbanned. I just finished serving my 7-day ban.
That's not the Steven I remember from Unfiltered, baby.
Yeah, the Steven you remember from Unfiltered never had his entire fucking livelihood threatened with no warning. So, I mean, I want to kind of just chill the fuck out before I back to carpet cleaning over the least drama I've ever done. Of all the things, Steven, that guy that said nigger and gook and faggot and hates women and did all that shit. Oh, him? Yeah, he got fired from streaming because he watched a YouTube video. Like, no, that's not how my life ends. Not yet. So we're just gonna kind of chill on that.
All right, Fenner. Well, you first of all this is your first time on the show. I want to thank you for coming. So why don't you show off that beautiful baritone voice and tell us your thoughts on YouTube coming to streaming and your thoughts on whether or not you're gonna. Does that excite you? You know, AdSense from Google is a very attractive thing for people when they were talking about acquiring Twitch. So what are your thoughts with them coming to the streaming platform?
I honestly don't know too much about it yet. It depends how they go about it, right? Because they had a shot at live streaming before and they completely screwed it up. No one used it, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Their setup was horrible. So I assume this time around they're going to do a better job. I think they need to copy Twitch a lot if they're going to go somewhere with it, because they've got the best setup. It just runs smoothly. But other than that, like, it depends what they do when they come around, you know, to see if I'm going to like switch over or something like that. Because switching over is a big thing, because everyone's on Twitch, right?
Right. You've got a following on Twitch now. You have people who you know use it. That's a huge network to let go.
Yeah.
ReDeYe.
I got a big following on YouTube as well, which is the same size as Twitch, but
True.
I have no idea if they'd watch the live stream or if they're just there to watch VODs or anything like that.
Right.
It's just going to be something everyone experiments with, I guess.
Something good that could come from it though is you know, it's not too easy. They have a small video editing capability on YouTube, but it'd be interesting to see if once they start integrating the VOD systems from their esports, you know, and video game streaming platform, what kind of benefits we get in the long run. You know, if they kind of beef up what kind of video editing, you know, and pushing to YouTube that they allow.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, ReDeYe, what about you? You know, you don't rely too much on streaming, but any thoughts on them coming into the market?
Well, I think it's a good thing. It's a positive thing. I think when you have competition, it breeds, you know, a healthy set of competition and respect to other companies, making sure that they're stepping up their game. And I think, you know, Twitch has done that in the past very successfully. It's seen off the likes of Owned in the past. It's obviously ahead of MLG right now in terms of streaming. And they're the number one in the market. They're there to be aimed at. So, you know, I think that's only good from a user point of view, because, you know, healthy competition means that they'll put things into practice that perhaps their users want, and maybe do them better as well. So, yeah, I think it's good. I think it's great that we have a company like Google as well, battling against Amazon again and doing it on a slightly different basis. And again, can only be healthy. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where, you know, as Fenner said, they've tried this before and it hasn't really worked. But I think having the people that they've got on board now and knowing some of the guys that they've got behind the scenes, I think they've got a much better chance this time round. But it just depends whether they're actually going to go into this with their eyes open and be more community focused, like Twitch have been over the last 3 to 4 years.
I think what's hilarious about it all is just picturing, you know, like a Zubu and Hitbox, and they're like the Japanese people on the beach, while Godzilla and Mothra are just ripping chunks off each other. Because, you know, it's going to be really interesting how this goes. You know, I'm talking about creation of opportunities, and you know, obviously anyone who's not particularly satisfied with how things are going at Twitch, like when that tree gets shook, you know, at the moment there's nowhere for them to particularly fall. You know, you are taking a risk if you go to a Zubu. I think they'd admit that. You are taking a risk if you go to Hitbox. But, you know, now if YouTube come into it, well, are you taking a risk? And it's gonna create competition, which I think is actually going to be good. As much as I love Twitch, and as much as, you know, I stream on Twitch and everything else, and I've worked for Twitch in a freelance capacity, I'm always dubious about monopolies. I think most people are.
Mm-hmm. It's not even, and I would go a step further. It's not even a risk to leave Twitch. It's career suicide at the moment. When I went over, I streamed a day on Hitbox just because I was bored. When during my ban, which is probably not a good idea, but I did it for like a day, and I think I had like 500, 600 viewers, and I was like by far the largest streamer on the entire site. So it's like, if you want to grow your fan base, like, you can't do it on a Zubu. Everybody knows this. You can't even really do it on Hitbox, even though arguably some of the Hitbox technology is better. The chat system and the video player with the less delay is arguably better. It almost doesn't even matter because there's so many viewers on Twitch. You need access to that community if you want to grow your stream. It'll be, I think, the most interesting part about YouTube getting involved, and I said this the last time, like 3 years ago, whenever they got involved again, is to see how much exposure you can get to YouTube audiences via YouTube streaming. If somebody like PewDiePie could flip on his stream, and he has how many subs does he have?
3 million, something around that.
Is it? Yeah, if he could flip his stream on, no, okay, no, you guys, fuck you. He has 35 million subs. 35 million. So if somebody like PewDiePie could flip on a stream and get, 10% engagement, right, which is what you would expect in a YouTube video, right? He turns on a stream, he gets 3 million viewers. Like, would that happen? I don't know. What if you only get 1% engagement? He gets 300,000 viewers, right? That's still fucking crazy. It would be really interesting to see, because there's a huge untapped audience that exists on YouTube that don't watch video game streams. So would streaming on YouTube like serve to bridge that gap? Because if it did, holy fuck, that's like making your game like mobile. Like you've just like tapped into like a huge fucking market of people that have never watched. Like that would be fucking awesome. And that would actually be good for Twitch and YouTube, because people that start watching streams on YouTube will, inexorably, they'll start looking at, streams elsewhere too, which will obviously lead them to Twitch. So.
Yep. All right, guys, we're gonna, I think that's all. Anyone else have a final thought on YouTube coming to the market?
Well, just, it's not really been talked about, but, I'm quite comfortable talking about it. I'm kind of that guy more often than not. There has been some question marks about, this recent acquisition of GGA, which I know we're all familiar with, the Good Game Agency, and, how they have teams contracted underneath them. And it was brought into Twitch, I think, with the plan that they were going to handle all of the business ends of the teams that were partnered with Twitch. Now, several organizations that haven't sort of acquiesced to that and want to continue to run their businesses their way and not have our friend Alex Garfield act as sort of some sort of business overlord and dictating who sponsors what all under one kind of umbrella. There has been some question marks. That's Garfield's released the hounds there. There has been some question marks about, do we want to kind of conform to this? Are we getting a good deal? Is preferential treatment being shown within Twitch to the GGA teams? And this has been a talking point for a while now. And I think because Twitch is so big, it's been a bit of a hot potato and nobody really wants to address it. So this is another reason why I think having somebody as credible as Google coming into the live streaming space is going to be important, because, let's say you are disgruntled with Twitch or disgruntled with that model. I don't think you're necessarily going to be able to have a conversation with them on a level foothold, because they kind of know they've got you by the balls. And maybe the old community-focused Twitch wouldn't be like that. A new Amazon-owned Twitch, can we really say the same? I don't know. So, I think for that reason alone, competition is good, because it enables people to not feel trapped with the golden handcuffs, so to speak.
Yep, and YouTube's definitely an attractive an attractive person to consider. You're looking at Ding It and Azubu and all these other competitors. They're not as established as Twitch, just in general. They're new companies. It's not as sexy. It's like, oh, I'm going to leave Twitch. I'm going to leave. Yeah, you have what you built up, but you all, and that's a lot to leave behind. But then you look at YouTube and it's like, yeah, I might be leaving Twitch for YouTube, but maybe I already have a presence on YouTube from VODs and things like that are going to translate, I guess, into a little more security. So we'll see what comes from that. But it is exciting to have a big time competitor.
The other thing about YouTube there is that if it does be implemented well, there's a bunch of streamers, like Destiny said, like PewDiePie, who could come around and just like be an entirely new wave of streamers who are just way bigger than the current Twitch streamers. So it'll be entirely a new group of people that,
which is good. I mean, I want a guy in front of me streaming to 300,000 people, because I know that when he shuts his stream off, that rollover, right? You know this, Fenner, right? You know the phenomenon? Yeah, that's fuck yeah.
All those Let's Play guys that never do streaming, they all do the direct to YouTube stuff. That's a lot of potential streamers that will give us that residual, like, oh my God, what's this world of streaming? Because obviously there are a lot of people that haven't discovered it yet, and when they do, I think we're going to see a huge boost just overall in stream following.
So here's a question: what do you guys think is the principal failure of Azubu? Because they have money, right? They've bought a lot of talent. Why do you think Azubu never took off? I don't think it's ever going to take off. How many years has it been? And it just seems like they can't get a footing.
Richard?
Well, I feel I don't know. I would have thought out of all of us, isn't Steven the best equipped to answer that question?
Well, yeah, but I want your guys' opinion. What the fuck?
Yeah, but I mean, well, why don't you educate me? You're the only one who's been a successful streamer here. I think me and Paul, like, streaming to like 200 people while we're playing CSGO or something. I guess I can give you my perspective, but I've never even explored that path as a career opportunity, you know? So I
think the only way to look at it is that they don't have a following anywhere. YouTube has a following already, right? So they've got a possible chance. Any new streaming platform just can't get the foot in, because if you go to somewhere like Azubo, you go to Ding It, nobody's going to go over there.
The people trying to make a life out of streaming, to leave behind that following is a huge risk, unless you have some other source of income.
We saw that was a big concern. Okay, when you know, Fnatic and people like that went to Azubu, and one of the from League of Legends at least, one of the concerns that their League of Legends team had was, well, look, we've got a huge subs base. We're going across to Azubu. We need to be compensated for that. And at the time, and I think this has changed, but at the time they didn't have a way of delivering ads through stream Azubu. Now, keep in mind, Azubu's on the Bright Cove player, so they don't even necessarily, you know, it's an outsourced technology solution. There's no way to deliver an ad system, so they were paying the equivalent of subs plus the equivalent of what they believed their average viewership would generate in ads, which they used through some sort of ROI calculator or whatever. They'd worked it all out, so they were trying to sort of guarantee that you would get a similar amount of money, but of course then you're still capped in your earnings. You can't actively go out there and do things that drive more subscribers because there is no subscription option. So I think a lot of people, you know, that's great to have that guaranteed, but equally the payoff is you can't necessarily grow it. And I know a lot of serious hardcore streamers, especially the League of Legends guys, that can get crazy numbers and make serious bank just off the subscriptions alone. I imagine many of those people who made that move felt a little bit aggrieved that their organizations took signing on fees and put them in that position.
Okay. Sure. I kind of feel like a really big fuck up on Azubo. I think it's kind of interesting because people always talk about like this dichotomy of, do you want to be like a pro entertainer or do you want to be a pro streamer? It's really weird. If you look at a lot of the talent that Azubo buys up, it seems like Azubo only ever went after really good players, but they didn't actually get people with like really big fan bases to come over. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like they went after like all the Kespa teams and they bought up like a lot of like really good players, but they never managed to get up anybody with like an already established like big following that does a lot of streaming.
I think
the pro players have got a big following as well.
What?
Pro players have got a big following as well, though, right?
They have a big following,
just because you have a big following as a pro player doesn't mean you're going to get a lot of viewers as a streamer, right? NannyWa has a lot more professional fans than me, but I can still pull more people streaming than he can, and he's got probably like 10 times the professional fans. What, do I even have any professional fans?
Did NannyWa get pulled by Azubu?
Pulled?
Did he?
No, he's on Twitch.
Okay, so here's the thought though. I think you're onto something good with that, because you have the pro gamers. Sure, a lot of people don't. There are very few pro gamers who are followed so religiously, and I think NannyWa or Stefano are you know, those are the kind of people. But someone like you know, professional streamer, brings a lot of entertainment. You would have been a valuable asset to someone like Azubu, because you're bringing that kind of more hardcore following. People are turning in to see Senpai do whatever the fuck he wants to do. YouTube time or CSGO, it doesn't matter if you're playing StarCraft or talking to hookers. People are going to come follow you. But you have pro gamer like MC, I think got tapped by Azubu. I can't remember. But you have someone like him. Sure, people like to watch MC play, but
it has to be somebody that's like a streamer that's got an established like streamer following. Exactly. Like someone in chat pointed out, they were like, what, Faker doesn't have a big fan base? Well, not a big streaming fan base. His stream is pretty fucking boring, which is completely evidenced by the fact that when somebody threw up a stream on Twitch that only follows his thing around and doesn't even have his webcam or his music or him talking, like that thing got like, what, 8,000 viewers or whatever? And what does he get on Azubu? Like a couple thousand? Like that stream blew up real fast, which is only evidence of how shitty his stream was on Azubu. So I mean, yeah, I think it's kind of weird that they they're not weird. It's just interesting to know that they went after a lot of talent. Remember, Richard Lewis, you were really critical of MLG's early days. I remember you saying this because when MLG put on their streaming platform, MLG's big slogan was, we only want premium content or whatever. And it seems like Azubu kind of went that same route where they're like, we only want pro players, like really good shit or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
it kind of backfired, it seems.
The premium content thing for me is, I always thought that was Orwellian bullshit. You know, again, I got friends over at MLG, but you know, I stand by that criticism, and I think a lot of people in the industry, again, whether they'd say it publicly or not, they do really find that, you know, the kind of idea of premium content risible, especially if you look at some of the streamers that they're paying. You know, the idea of applying the word premium to it is hilarious. Sure. But Azubu, I'm absolutely confident will be open platform sooner rather than later. I think they wanted to, and it makes sense. You know, they wanted to try and bring in some people that could deliver big numbers. You know, the Kesper deal, I feel, was a smart deal for them. It maybe hasn't worked out as it should, but it was actually quite a clever deal. They did have, you know, Artosis and Tasteless, I think, on there at one point. These are people that, you know, I would apply the tag premium content to. But now I think they need, if they want to grow the brand and they want to have an organic audience, you need to be open platform. I think that's the lesson we take from Twitch. You are not going to catch up to Twitch by going down the premium content route. And
sure. I don't think
I'm confident Azubu will be open platform in the near future.
Even if they open it, though, I don't think Azubu can do it. If they open platform, like, who's going to go and start to stream on Azubu? I don't think anybody will do it because everybody's on Twitch. I think they needed to get people with big streamer followings on the site.
Yeah, but let's say you're a new streamer, okay, and you stream League of Legends. You know, good luck ever hitting the front page and building an audience on Twitch, which is why, you know, guys like Winter, you know, crop up. But you know, it's incredibly difficult to break into an established audience. And we all know how it works. It's a snowball effect.
Yeah,
you get on the front page, the closer at the top you are, the more likely you are to have people click on you. So you stay at the top, and you know, the audience snowballs. Now, if you were a new streamer and you were like, well, I could go on Twitch, but actually, I'll never get on the front page. Who's going to want to watch me? Like, even if I had 100, 200 followers on Twitter and they all joined on, I'm never getting on that front page. However, if I went to Azubu now, right at the start when it's an open platform, maybe I can get on that front page. Maybe I can build up a core audience on that streaming platform and grow from there. So actually, I think for smaller streamers, I think going an open platform, it would, and you know, and guys at Hitbox as well, I think it would put the question in their head, well, actually, would I be better off on an alternative to Twitch?
Yeah, maybe. We have 3 times more viewers on this show right now, though, than every single person watching League of Legends on Azubu. There's 568 people watching.
Well,
but I know what you mean. I know what you mean, though.
That's the thing, though. The new people that do go to Azubu, maybe they'll get to like 20 viewers or something.
20 viewers, yeah. Whereas on Twitch,
they'll hit a limit.
Yeah, it's possible.
All right.
So, you know, I agree. I do agree with what you're saying. I just think, obviously, you know, it's what's going to come first, the chicken or the egg, right? Like, if they we're never going to.
It's like a circle of fuck up, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just Azubu is one of those things. Azubu is like reminiscent of like the 2012 era of StarCraft, where like people were dumping. Back in the 2012, it was like the wild fucking west, right? Where everybody was just throwing like tens of thousands of dollars, like fucking everywhere to see like what would grow, what would stick. You know, we had fucking the MLG come in with the huge events. We had NASL, we had fucking IPL, we had all these events, just like throwing all Ministry of Wind and fucking pulling like all these things, just throwing money around to see what would stick. And then like nothing, none of the investments were good. Nobody had any idea what was going on. And I feel like sometimes in looking at Azubu, it seems like they're reminiscent of those days of just like throwing a fuck ton of money, but like not actually figuring out, ESGN, you know, but not actually figuring out like what exactly is going to work or what's going to be built. Like how many like Azubu has to be in the 7-figure range of investment at this point, right? They've dumped over $1 million into the servers, into the years of doing this, of all the cash incentives of everything. So it just seems weird that they have. And
they've received, according to sources in the business, my understanding is they have received another round of funding as well.
Huh. Okay.
So, I mean, I think they'll put it this way. Again, people know this. Azubu know this. You know this. Twitch know this. Everybody knows this. I was critical of the Azubu rebranding, the 2.0. I don't think they addressed a lot of the problems that were left from the first incarnation, and they carried over. And there was this big question: what happens when their investors, the Sapinda Group, primarily, if they elect to pull out? And I said, then they won't be here within 6 months. It's going to be. It's going to be another.
Well, their additional round of funding that had to come from Sapinda, right? There's no way they found another investor. Right?
Again, that's my understanding, but I could be wrong. I mean, obviously, these are people that are only sort of tangentially linked to it that are talking. But my understanding is that Sapinda at this juncture, because they've had so many failures in the esports space, and Azubu is kind of the one that's still here, and Yeah, it's like, well, fuck it, we'll double down, right?
It's functional, yeah.
Yeah, we got, because to fail now, and especially think about the market we're in. I mean, people need to remember there was a games developer company that maybe isn't a million miles away from this show that were actually in talks to potentially purchase Azubu as a streaming platform. And they've been doing the rounds. I mean, this is a time now when big companies are going to come in and be like, well, how do we compete with an Amazon? How do we compete with a Google? Maybe we buy something like Azubu and cash out. And that ultimately is Sapinder's goal as a venture capitalist investment company.
To sell it?
So it will, of course, that's what venture capitalists do.
Oh, yeah, I know, but selling this and recouping the initial investment seems impossible at this point. But
but is it though? Because I mean,
unless you can convince someone else, what's it called in investing? Like the greater fool theory, where like if I buy it, even if it's never worth more, I can convince somebody else that later it'll be worth more.
Yeah, there is.
They think they can convince someone else later that it'll be worth more, right?
But I think there's a lot of big companies that are monitoring the situation. And as I've said to Paul, and Paul doesn't need me to say it to him, he's more than cognizant of this fact. 2015 is going to be a huge year for esports broadcasting, and we're going to see unparalleled growth and opportunities that were previously unthinkable. So there's no need to suspect for a second that Azubu actually would keel over and die at this point. I think they've made it through the difficult territory. I think they've made it through the hard yards. And actually, I'm amazed that they did, frankly. So I can totally imagine them still being here. Whatever their success is going to be, I absolutely don't know.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
So ReDeYe, we're actually going to move on now. That's the end of talk about YouTube streaming and all that. We're going to now get into IEM Katowice and
Katowice.
We're going to get into IEM Katowice, and we're going to. I know that we're going to catch hell, but we're going to spend like 2 minutes on it. We're going to kick it off with ReDeYe. I'd like your thoughts on the CS:GO performances at IEM Katowice. Specifically with Fnatic. Did you follow it while you were there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a strange event for me this year, not only because obviously it's my last IEM and that was a little bit bittersweet at times, but it was also because I wasn't too interested in the League of Legends, although I popped in there just to see what the crowd was doing and what the matches were like. But I was literally flitting between the StarCraft stage, watching StarCraft matches, and when there was a StarCraft match which I wasn't maybe as passionate about, I would sneak over to the Counter-Strike and see what was going on over there. So yeah, I kind of felt like I was doing two stages at sometimes because I wanted to watch both. They almost needed a platform somewhere I could watch both games at the same time. But yeah, so I did follow the CS. I wouldn't say it's expected that Fnatic win, but they are the #1 team in the world, and they probably have been for the last 9-12 months or so. So it wasn't unexpected, but I think in the manner that they did it and the way that NIP got to their 5th consecutive major final as well was great. The semi-finals had all 4 of the previous 4 major winners in it. So, it was a high-quality, high-class event, and, all 4 teams were fantastic.
Awesome. Richard, do you have a real quick thought on the did you follow that event?
It was very difficult to. I mean, I was in a similar position to Paul. Like, there was so much going on at the event, and you need to be aware of so many games that actually it was very hard to kind of follow everything. I did follow primarily the CS because that is the game I enjoy watching the most. But certainly in terms of its production and the numbers that it achieved, I mean, again, it's another high watermark in the esports success story of 2015. Would have been nice to have been involved, but guess you can't have everything.
No. All right, so now let's get to what people want to hear about in this stream, and we're going to kick it off with StarCraft. And Fenner, why don't you go ahead and take us into StarCraft specifically? Let's talk about Dark and his performance.
So was Dark paid to throw his game too? No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, keep going.
I think the Dark performance is kind of interesting in like IEM and ZVT as a whole, because I said this to you, but I watched every single ZVT in IEM, and every game there was a Hellbat build a Zerg player lost, except for one game, which was Solar vs. Byong, where Solar went for a silly Roach Nidus and managed to get it off. And then every game against Dark, the same stuff happened. When there was a Hellbat build, he lost the game. When there wasn't a Hellbat build, he won the game. So it just happened that people didn't go Hellbats enough against Dark, in my opinion. With that said, though, Dak plays completely standard when it comes to ZVT. It's just so simple. Like he plays exactly how you would expect him to. He goes to a Mutiling Bane. He throws in Corruptors sometimes, which is kind of interesting, which is kind of his new style, which I really like. But I don't think there's too much to talk about on there. But he just plays standard. He sits on creep. He doesn't overextend like a lot of Korean players do right now. Life, for example, he always gets the lead in ZVT. Then he just can't help himself from attacking over and over and over off creep. You see it all the time.
That's what makes him so great, though, Fenner.
Yeah, I know, right? I love Life. Life's my favorite player, ReDeYe, but that's how he does throw games in ZVT. And that's how he gets the lead as well, by being crazy aggressive and just catching people off guard. But yeah, I think the main thing to look at is the Hellbats. They seem super strong. Even if they don't do game-ending damage, the whole time the Zerg player is focusing on the Hellbats. They're losing Lings, they're losing Queens, they're focusing on the Hellbats, so they're missing injects, because generally when there's like a big Hellbat Marine push, you're going to pull all of your Queens off your hatches, so you miss injects. Your creep spread gets messed up even if they don't directly kill creep, because they're all in your base killing Queens and Lings. And then at the same time, no Korean player opens roaches, so there's just thousands of Ling kills, and even though it doesn't look that big, they always seem to fall behind.
So one thing that I seem to notice is that Widow Mines, everyone likes to decry the Widow Mine as this horrible, overpowered unit, but it seemed that in the TVZ games we were watching, the Widow Mines did not do as well, and especially with some of Dark's play, it seemed like he very much took advantage of the splash damage, the friendly fire from the Widow Mine, and used it against his opponents. So with the fact that when you go into a Widow Mine engagement, you have to decide, first of all, what's the Zerg going to do? Is he going to be smart enough to control his units and bait my Widow Mine shots? Is it going to hurt my own units? And then people say, well, Hellbats are a lot harder to control. And, it's not easy to target fire Widow Mine. So when you come into that situation, would you say as a Zerg player, it is much more beneficial for the Terran to learn to use Hellbats properly to get that control down instead of relying on Widow Mines in the long run?
I think you need both of them if you want the best, Can
I add to that question?
Yeah,
because you still play a lot. It always seemed like it always seemed like Widow Mines doing friendly fire damage. It always seemed kind of random. Like sometimes you would send, right? Like sometimes you would send in like a lot of Lings, and it would just be like, oh my god, like his whole army would die to Widow Mines because it would be like the god tier fucking shots. But other times, like you'd run in a bunch of Lings to bait out the first shots, and then the Ling that was initially getting targeted by the Widow Mine ends up getting killed by Marine, and then the retarget, like it doesn't actually do anything. It seems kind of RNG-ish. It's not actual RNG, but
that's the thing about Widow Mines in general, and it's why I love the Corruptor style from Dark, because I feel like the Corruptor style minimizes the RNG a bit. Because when you just fly Corruptors, like you basically A move, but the Corruptors can tank the damage. Whereas if you got Muters flying around all the time, it costs more AP. Sometimes you're gonna hit like some random Widow Mines on the map and lose a bunch of Muters. If you look at any Mutaling Bane game, there's always like 20 plus Muters dead by the 20-minute mark or something.
I think it's also because players are getting smarter as well. They're figuring out like Widow Mine placement, so they know roughly where they're going to go with Muters. They know where they're going to go with Corruptors. Whereas before, I mean, in the earlier days, it seemed like, if you watch Tasia's game, he would have these crazy lines of Widow Mines everywhere, and you'd be like, well, that's weird. Why has he put them? Oh, that's why he's put them there. Yeah, because that idiot just flew like 12 Muters in and they all died. Yeah. Whereas now it feels like players are much smarter. They've actually, it's almost like it's in their brain. They go, okay, he could have Widow Mines here. If I fly, where would I go to get into his base with this Muters and these Widow Mines? I reckon he'd probably put them there. And I saw him do that in a previous replay, so I know that's what he's going to do. So I think there's a bit of both. I think it's a bit, I mean, Hellbats were really strong when the game came out, when Part of the Swarm came out, and we saw players like Innovation just abusing the crap out of them. And weirdly, he isn't really abusing them that much at the moment, and he's still winning. So I don't think it's as bad as other people think, but then I would say that I play Terran.
You fucking piece of shit.
Oh. All right. So let's move on from Dark. Let's go to the finals. Yeah, I know you're not it's not PvP isn't your bag as a Zerg, but PvP finals, laser versus laser. All right. So game one, right? Game one was it was Trap's favor, man. He got that free mothership core. He was in a great position. The Dark Templar engagement in the middle of the map, mid game, it really set him in a great position. And then he fucking through it. Do you think that loss as a someone who's very familiar with the professional scene, do you think that loss had an impact on the rest of the series, or was he just outplayed by Zest the final games?
I think I think people overestimate like if someone loses a game, how much it bothers them. Like people see people lose the game, like, oh god, that screwed him off his game. He didn't play that good that series. At least for me, I don't think that actually happens that often.
It depends on the player, though.
I think it depends. Exactly.
You know, there are some players who are very tilted by losing a map they believe they should win. You know, we've seen Life lose maps that, as you said earlier, Fenner, he looks like he's way ahead. He knows he's way ahead. Then he goes and does some crazy overextension and then ends up losing the map. And then you look at him afterwards and he's like, God damn it. Why did I do that again? I keep doing that. And I think some players do get tilted. Others, like here, if you look at Hero, when he loses a map, he just kind of like, he looks at the screen a little bit and then he kind of goes, oh, well, yeah, all right, whatever. And he moves on. And so I think you're right. I think sometimes we look at that a little bit too much, but I think it's definitely a factor, you know, and I think the fact that we're even talking about it is good because it means that finally commentators and hosts and people that do broadcasts are actually cotton on to the fact that these human emotions do play a part in the result of a match.
It's one thing as well. I don't know too much about Zest because I don't watch Protoss that much, so I don't know much about his personality. Whereas, let me think for Zerg, who like falls out. I'm just thinking of Marine King because I know Marine King. If he loses a game, then he's like on proxy rexes and stuff all the time.
I was going to say something else there, but perhaps too early.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to talk about some behind-the-scenes things now. Overall, though, it was very exciting tournament. Very, very great games to watch. But let's talk about the passion of the Maynard, right? We're seeing more and more of him. A lot of people are liking it. His popularity is definitely growing among the viewers. So I'd like your perception, ReDeYe, first from the back end. What is he like? Do you see him working all the time? Is he a Joker kind of guy? Give us a feel for Maynard behind the scenes.
He's actually a very interesting character. I hired him for the first time a couple of years ago when we did Singapore. And you could see that he had a raw kind of brilliance about him. I would compare it, and this isn't, you know, making too bold a statement, but I would compare it to the early Tasteless kind of man that I found in 2005, in that he didn't really have solid broadcasting skills. His technical skills weren't particularly good, but the raw just passion that he had and the raw ability to make you feel like, wow, this must be a great moment, or, you know, make your hairs stand up on your back of your neck or your arms was there from the very beginning. So when we brought him in last year to work with us again, I was really pleased. And he seemed much better, but he still he's still got that kind of rawness about him, which is great. Forward fast a few weeks from Taipei to here, and it's almost like, I don't know what happened in between. I don't know if he took a broadcasting course for 48 hours a day or something for 2 weeks, but somehow he's improved again, like in the space of a few weeks. So yeah, incredible. You know, incredible passion, the way that he gets it across, it's great. And he has these unique mannerisms and unique phrases that we're perhaps not used to hearing because of the fact that he's from Australia and they don't get out of that country very often, and not as much as they should, either broadcast-wise or in esports for that matter. And so I think that's kind of what the appeal is. But as a man behind the scenes, he's actually very, very strange because he's not as maybe... He doesn't have as much bravado as you might imagine him to have. He's actually quite a calm, very pleasant, very chatty kind of guy. And as an Englishman and an Australian, we have quite a bit of banter between us, usually about cricket or rugby or tennis or some other godforsaken sport that we're both crap at, or, you know, they're better than us at. But yeah, he's a very nice guy, very very down to earth man as well.
All right, so what is he? Some comment I saw, and that I'm curious about your opinion because you've been working in the broadcasting side of things for a long time. Someone made the comment that they didn't see him put on the camera as much as some other casters, and I didn't really notice it until someone said something. But I'd like your opinion. Do you think that the dreadlock look? Do you think there is really any concern by anyone at ESL about putting him on the camera as a?
No, absolutely not. Like, he's an individual. The dreadlocks are what makes him stand out. There's something very personal for him. Until you just raised it, I hadn't even thought about it. And I don't think you should. Why are we suddenly discriminating against people's hairstyles? What the hell?
That was my thought. I wanted to know if
no, absolutely not. I don't care whether you're yellow, green, blue, black, dyed red hair. I mean, Tasteless, when he first went to WCG Singapore, which was done with OGM, by the way, and was a very big thing back then, he went with dyed red hair.
Oh, I thought it was blue, but yeah.
No, it was red originally. He's had blue as well since. Oh my God! Like, are we really starting to discriminate against people because of their hair type?
I don't think that it's going to get to that point. I don't think we'll ever. I don't think esports is the kind of scene.
No, let's not, because I like the fact that we've got some really cool individuals in this scene, and just let them be whatever they want to be. Jesus.
It was a weird thing.
There was some talk about some Riot broadcasters, one that may have had an eyebrow piercing. I don't know if Paul heard about this, but yeah, that might have been. Yeah, that might have been.
Look, there is to some producers of shows, they want a certain style and they want a certain look, and I totally understand that. That's absolutely fine. But if we're actually, if the community are actively starting to say, well, I don't know if this guy deserves to be on a camera because he's got dreadlocks, then we're absolutely nuts. We've gone insane. We really have. All
right, I think that puts the that's a pretty definitive statement. I don't disagree with that at all. All right. Sorry, comment. I didn't expect such a forceful.
Wait, just chill with me a little bit. I'm starting to wonder about the ability of a guy to produce to be on camera and give us entertainment, and we're actually criticising his dreadlocks. If that's all we're worried about, then the guy's fucking awesome, isn't he?
I think it becomes detrimental at a point. It's like you're losing personality of the caster right there, right? You're just making him a robot who broadcasts at the end.
Yeah, sorry for the Russell Jimmies, but
no.
Jesus.
No, I don't disagree with you at all. I guess I really didn't put a lot of thought into it. I just saw the comment and I was like, are people actually thinking that?
That's got to be a troll.
So, I actually think it's a legitimate concern. Not like on like a moral or ethical thing. It's not. But I mean, in terms of like what people look for, like in broadcasting or whatnot, like
of course, yeah. And like I said, if Riot are looking for a specific look, then you have to give them that specific look. That's right.
It's I think like you can have facial hair and most people will think like it's okay, but like looking back on like my days in the casino, I can't think of anybody that was associated with the business side of the casino, any VPs or execs or anything. All of those guys were always clean shaven every fucking time, and I'm willing to bet that like in the business world, it's probably really rare to see somebody with facial. Not that it's like a good thing or a bad thing, but just saying that like I wonder if that's something that comes up, because to be fair, for all the shit that we can give right, I know that Richard Lewis loves to, and I do too. I mean, their LCS production, that's some fucking probably the best shit in esports right now.
Like, definitely is.
That's some top-notch fucking shit. So I wonder in terms of what their standards are going to be. It'll be interesting to see what happens, I guess. If we see Maynard like shave his head one day and update his Twitter profile picture, then I guess we'll know.
Excited for Riot?
Yeah.
I like the dreads. So, all right. With that, let's talk about his casting. The last thing about Maynard. Let's talk about his casting. Fenner, you were watching the games. What do you think of his casting?
I know Maynard pretty well as well. I'm friends with him, and I live in Australia, obviously. I think his casting is amazing, but it's purely play by play. He's perfect at hyping up the game. I think him and Apollo just match together perfectly. Listening to Apollo on his insight and things like that, and then Maynard in those moments where you need that hype, the entertainment, the excitement. He's perfect at putting that in. No. But when it comes to insights and knowledge and stuff like that, he's not the best at the game. He doesn't get to play that much. He works full time, all that kind of stuff. So he's basically slotted in as play by play. He needs someone else, I think. Sorry about that. He needs someone else to cast with. He can't really do anything.
I would agree with that. I mean, my personal preference for broadcast pairs is always, or triples, is that you have a play-by-play and a color guy. And by a color guy, I mean, an ex-pro.
We know what you mean.
Wow. I know you know what I mean, but not everyone knows what I mean about color. There's
a
ton of confusion out there. There really is. It's crazy.
Colored casters are my favorite, to be honest. I think.
Yeah, and it comes down to you appeal to both sides, right? Steven just said, "Jeez,
I'm done.
Good guy, Steven. I don't like him. I want the other one. I want the other one back."
Sorry.
All right. So let's go on to Snoot. Right. Incredibly eloquent, Mr. Snoot. Was great watching him. So my first experience with Snoot, right? It's Red Bull. Red Bull in 2013. The final was in New York City, and I have no, like, I'm just doing Gosu Pizza at the time. I don't have the show. No one really knows me, and I walk to the place early because I'm in New York by myself. I have nothing to do. I go get a coffee and I walk into, what was it, the Carnegie Hall? Is that where they had it, or the ballroom? I can't remember which place they had it, but I walk in and there's this blonde kid next to me, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "Hey, you look familiar. Who are you?" And he like just looks right in front of him and points, and there's the big mural with all the players, and there he is, Snoot, and it says right under. I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I felt stupid, but he's a very nice, friendly guy. We sat and talked for a little bit. So, working with him on the back end. So I don't know if you go to Home Story Cup, ReDeYe, but and like
I've been a couple of times, yeah.
You hang with him there. What is he like when you're working? When he's not just there to play, what's he like to work with?
But I mean, as a person, he's actually a very, very quiet, very thoughtful kind of guy. Has some strong opinions though, but he doesn't, he doesn't shout and rant about them. But he's very nice. I know this is sounding like these casters are all lovely people kind of show, but yeah, he's genuinely a very, very nice guy. I get on with him very well. I know that he was tremendously nervous about doing the show because he's done Home Story Cups before, and it's a very much, it's a very chilled out kind of venue. Stephen knows well. It's a totally different kind of feel. And what we wanted for him at this event was very much a structured kind of position on that desk. But what was great, I thought, about him was that he played his role perfectly. In that, we know what we're going to get from each of the people on the panel. You know what you're going to get from Rotterdam. You know what you're going to get from Todd. You know what you're going to get from In Control. But he has this kind of, almost, I don't know, earthly quality, but also the increased knowledge of having, not become a retired player or on a downward spiral. He's actually at the top of his game. He's one of the best players in the world right now. And he can give us that kind of intelligence, and he did that brilliantly.
Yeah, I really liked his. I liked hearing him. It was weird to hear him too because he speaks very, very well.
Yeah, he is very eloquent. He's very softly spoken, actually.
Mm-hmm. Richard, what'd you think of Snoot? Did you get to catch much of him?
I mean, first of all, he's obviously been always somebody I think would be cut out for this. Like, although, like Paul says, whenever I've interacted with him, he's always been really quiet. You can see he's got a lot going on upstairs. He's very an analytical and thoughtful person, very measured. Always likes to make sure he's saying the thing that best reflects his opinion. So he's quite always a joy to talk to. I've done numerous interviews with him. He's a model pro in a lot of ways. And again, I echo Paul's sentiments. There's probably people out there in cyberspace going, this is like some old boys club bullshit. This is like, Snoot there's got to be something wrong with him, but actually no. I'd happily throw anyone under the bus right now when asked that question. Snoot's not that guy. So I always expected him to do well in this kind of capacity, and it's good to see him kind of getting the recognition he deserves for having that kind of ability.
Steven, you've been to Home Story Cup. Have you met Snoot, hung out with him?
Yeah, like just casually. Like I've just said like hi to him or whatever. I haven't talked to him like extensively. But yeah, he seems like a really cool guy for the most part. He seems really genuine. He's really soft spoken. He's kind of like a European smaller version of Chef a little bit, I think. Like he seems like a really nice dude, and yeah, I like him. I don't have anything else to say about him.
Is Chef playing Heroes now?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of people are playing Heroes. There's a lot of European pros that are playing a lot of Heroes. I don't know how much has been.
Yeah, I met him at BlizzCon. He had the all this Heroes gear on. I was like, oh, that's right. I forgot you quit StarCraft. But yeah, all right. So that's really it about IEM Katowice. All right, I'll eventually say that right.
That was nice. That was good.
Thank you. All right, so we've got some more coming up. Rain's departure from Fragbite Masters. We're going to talk about community. We're going to rehash a little bit of community members returning. We'll talk about Winter, ReDeYe leaving ESL, going to Gfinity, and a few other things. Of course,
wait, what about the fucking MKP shit?
We're going to. I'm saying that. Jesus Christ. We're taking a 3-minute break. Go grab some water, do what you need to do, and we'll be back with more Late Game.